Okay, hello everyone and welcome back, Super Soka, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some vanilla servers. If you don't know me, what I basically have done, I've played vanilla World of Warcraft a lot. I started playing in the open beta World of Warcraft in fall of 2004. I played all the way through vanilla WoW into about 6 months into the Burning Crusade, and then I quit. I quit WoW, and then I came back just when Nostalrius launched. So Nostalrius is a private vanilla World of Warcraft server, or was a private vanilla World of Warcraft server, and we're going to start there today. Okay. So I have made a table, and I'm kind of showing it here at the beginning of the video. This is just a quick comparison of some of the factual differences between the servers, not my opinions, but sort of things that I found or gathered that are very clear-cut, like the XP rate and whether you can buy stuff or not on the server through using real money, that kind of thing, the population. These are my best estimates in some cases. The population, especially for Kronos, are not totally well known. I've done what I can to try and be as accurate as possible. If you notice something wrong, let me know in the comments and I will at least put an annotation and correct it. I'll also put a link to this table in the video description, and I'll update that version of it with new data. If someone shows me some evidence that I'm wrong about something, I'll update it with the new version. So check the description of the video for an updated table. Besides that table, basically throughout the video here while I'm discussing these three servers, I will also show some gameplay from all three servers, from Nostalrius while I'm talking about Nostalrius, Kronos while I'm talking about Kronos, and the Rebirth while I'm talking about Rebirth. So those are the three servers, and basically Nostalrius, the reason why I mentioned even though it's gone, is that it's such a great server to me. It had a fairly professional GM team and developing team. They had some problems when they first started off. The GMs were a little bit weird, got better. The server was very Blizz-like, and the population was obviously there. So that's why I want to bring up Nostalrius first and talk about why it was such a great server, and then you can kind of get some idea of what I'm thinking about the Rebirth. So Nostalrius launched in about late February 2015, and that was the PvP server. The PvE server then launched around October 2015, and then both servers were sent a cease and desist order from Blizzard in about March or April 2016, and they shut down in April 2016. So the reason why I'm talking about these dead servers, there's a reason for this. I feel that Nostalrius is basically, or was basically, kind of the pinnacle of vanilla WoW servers. It wasn't perfect. By any means, it was not a perfect server, but it was a good server, a very good server, especially considering the team that was running it were just volunteers. So the population on that server was pretty crazy. They had, on average, on the PvP server, it peaked at like 16,000 players simultaneously. So that's counting both factions, so maybe 8,000 roughly on each faction at a time, which is a huge number. And they averaged probably around 6,000 at the very low end, probably closer to like 7,000 to 10,000 was like the average range. Towards the end, it was probably pushing up to like 8,000 to 12,000 being the average range. So the PvP server was massive, and the PvE server was much smaller, but still a huge and perfectly fine population for vanilla servers. It peaked at around 6,000, I think was the population peak, and it averaged between maybe 2,000 and 4,000 players online at a time, which is very close to what retail vanilla was. So retail vanilla, it changed over time, but it had around 2,500 to 3,500 kind of the max population until the Burning Crusade launched, and I think they bumped it up to about 4,000 or so as a max pop per server for retail Burning Crusade. So the Nostalrius servers were massive, and that some people didn't like the PvP population. I agree, it was a little bit too high, but the PvE server was pretty much perfect in my opinion. So this server, what it ended up doing was it released content progressively. It started off with Molten Core and Onyxia, and eventually went on to release Zul'Gurub Rub and Blackwing Lair, and was in plans to launch Kronos, which that never happened because they shut down. However, overall the server was just so good. The main thing that it did so well was that it didn't have any corruption of the vanilla content. It was as pure as possible, more or less, except for the crazy population. The PvP population was so big that was actually not Blizz-like in that sense. Blizz-like is sort of the general term, or Blizz-like sort of the general term we use to describe servers that most closely replicate the vanilla experience as it were on the retail Blizzard servers. So the population was not Blizz-like on the PvP server. The PvE server was very Blizz-like in my opinion, and the content was as Blizz-like as possible. It wasn't perfect, it was very close. The major thing is they didn't have any pay to win, so you couldn't donate money to the Nostalrius team and get any benefit. You weren't buying mounts, you weren't buying crazy legendary gear, nothing that kind of ruined the experience, so everyone was on a fair playing field, and that was very important to me and very important to many people, I think. And if Blizzard were to release their own vanilla servers eventually, which is kind of what I'm hoping for, I expect and hope that they will also kind of not allow any sort of exchange of money for any in-game benefit. So that's basically the major thing that made Nostalrius so good, was that it had such a kind of pure experience. And I don't want to say it was perfect, but they did their best to try and emulate what Blizzard had created originally. The XP rate was a 1x XP rate. It means you got the same amount of experience for killing mobs or completing quests as you did on the retail vanilla. And respec cost, when you respec your talents, they cost the same. Started at maybe 1 gold or 10 silver. I think it was 10 silver to start, went up to 1 gold, and progressively got up to 50 gold max. And so basically, Nostalrius servers were very, very good. They weren't perfect, but very, very good. The major issues being especially that because they were so large, especially the PvP server, there was basically server stability issues. There was some lag issues. There was certainly the draw distance was much lower than you would like. There was some weird phasing type of issues going on in some areas. So those are the major downfalls for the Nostalrius server. Some downtime, some instability to the server, but that was worse at the beginning and got better later on. And of course there were lag issues, especially on the PvP server. But overall, I would say, Nostalrius PvP, PvE, together, I would say they were like a 9 out of 10. I mean, they were so good, and honestly, if I would have paid $15 a month for those servers. Like, seriously, if $15 a month would have gotten me, secured access to those servers, and if Blizzard would have sponsored it and said, hey, you can do what you want with it, $15 a month is how much we're going to charge, I would have been there, absolutely. I would have hoped that money would have gone to opening a second PvP server and split the population a little. But besides that, and a little bit of some server stability problems, it was very, very good. So that's kind of the benchmark in my mind. That's why we're talking about Nostalrius first in this video, even though it's dead and it's gone, unfortunately. We want to talk about it because I want you to get a little understanding of why I liked Nostalrius, why I felt it was a very good server, and not perfect, but very good, and what I would hope that other servers kind of aspire to be, as far as what I want. So these are all just my opinions. Obviously, other people may disagree, but this is what I want and what I enjoyed playing. So, that's Nostalrius. Let's talk about the next server in line, in my opinion, that's very similar to Nostalrius, but not perfect, but similar, is Kronos. So, Kronos actually has 2 servers now. So the first Kronos server launched almost at the same time as Nostalrius. It launched like a couple weeks later in like March 2015. It's also a PvP server. And then the Kronos 2 server, that launched much later. It was like April 2016, so pretty much a year later. It actually launched after Nostalrius was shut down. So it was actually launched, I think, in response to the influx of players that left Nostalrius and came to Kronos. While Nostalrius was pulling thousands of players online at a time, Kronos was much smaller. It's, for some reason, I don't know what exactly caused it, but everyone seemed to have gone to Nostalrius. So Kronos only had a few hundred players, or just like the low thousands at any given time for a long time. But once Nostalrius closed, it really exploded the population on Kronos, starting around April and into May of 2016. And now Kronos, they don't release official server numbers. They shut off the /who function, doesn't work pretty much. And it seems like they're trying to hide their population. I don't know if it's from other players or other servers, or if it's because they want to keep more hidden from Blizzard. But my understanding is, and I'll put a link to this in the description, but there's someone on the Reddit forums who claims that he's found a way to extract the number of players online at a time. And I pretty much believe his results because they match up with how I feel the server population is. That's obviously not very scientific, but just from what I can tell from the activity in the auction house, the activity in world chat and general chat, the world PvP, it seems like the estimates are correct. So what this guy has found is that the maximum population on both Kronos servers is 6,000. Once it gets above 6,000 players, that's when the queue starts. Kronos 1 had a long queue starting up until Kronos 2 launched. Once Kronos 2 launched, a lot of people left Kronos 1, especially newer players from Nostalrius, and went to Kronos 2 because it was a fresh start. What that caused is Kronos 2 to kind of blow up in population, and there were queues as high as like 3,000 people sometimes, and that's supposedly after 6,000 people are already logged in. So Kronos 1 and Kronos 2, the max pop at one time is 6,000 supposedly, which it feels about right to me, and the queue starts at that point. You have to wait in line to get in. To me, I feel like Kronos 1, the population generally averages around 2,000 to 4,000, with some queues showing up, but I haven't seen a queue above 150 people since Kronos 2 launched. Kronos 2, on the other hand, has thousands of people in the queue sometimes. So when I look at Kronos 2, I think the population average is closer to like 4,000 to 5,000, and then it rapidly will speed up to like the queue hitting. So it might be more like 4,500 to 5,500 is the average population online at a time. And then these are for both factions in total, by the way. So Kronos is very popular, and 6,000 people online is an amazing number. I think it's a little, maybe too much even for my liking. Personally, I think like 4,000 to 5,000 is kind of an upper limit that I would like for vanilla content. But 6,000 is great. I think it's still good. It helped. There wasn't huge server instability on Kronos thanks to that. It would go down from time to time, and it still does go down from time to time, but it seemed to come up pretty quickly. However, recently, starting in basically early May of 2016, the Kronos server has hit, basically it's been getting DDoSed. And so that DDoSing is what you call like a denial of service attack. I don't want to go into detail what that means, but essentially there is a network of computers somewhere on Earth that is, you could consider trying to log into the Kronos servers tons, like thousands of times a millisecond or a second. And basically you're spamming the Kronos login servers. That causes them to overload and they fail and no one can log in. It basically jams them. So the Kronos servers are getting this huge DDoS attack. It's a massive DDoS attack. It's been going on for days straight, basically. Moments we can get on maybe for 10, 20 minutes. As far as I know, the server hasn't been online for more than 45 minutes to an hour consecutively at any given point in the last few days, which is a major problem. What it means is that a lot of people are starting to leave Kronos or go look at other options. And so we're going to talk about another option called the Rebirth, another server, at the end of this video. But these DDoS attacks, truthfully, they could kill as possible. And some people are claiming that this is an attack from gold farming companies in China that are attacking Kronos and basically blackmailing them, saying they won't stop DDoSing them, won't stop DDoSing Kronos until Kronos stops being so harsh on gold farms. So Kronos set up a lot of very good infrastructure to limit gold farming activities. Gold farming goes on, but they did a lot by limiting what level you can whisper people in chat, what level you can talk in general chat. They basically closed down VPNs. They did all sorts of things to try and disrupt gold farming. And so that's the rumor, is that it's something to do with these gold farming companies in China attacking the server and saying that unless they allow VPNs and basically allow gold farming, they won't let anyone play. My understanding is that's just a rumor, and I think the Kronos game masters even commented and saying it's not even necessarily true. It might be true, but they don't know. So I probably shouldn't even be repeating it because it comes off as spreading a rumor, but I wanted to mention it as something people have been talking about and kind of say that I don't think there's any real evidence of that just yet. So it's possible, but there's not evidence, clear evidence this is the case. At least not that I've seen. I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, please let me know. So Kronos, besides this having a decent population, and it tries to be Blizz-like to some extent, it has some failures, in my opinion, about the Blizz-likeness of it all. So the major thing that Kronos does is that there was a period of time where they allowed a 7 times experience rate gain. That was maybe for a month or two before Nostalrius was closing down, and the GM said they did that basically to try and encourage more people to play on the server. They were kind of desperate to get the population to grow, and that was their goal, that was their idea. They got rid of that, and that won't be coming back. They said that'll never happen again. They did it literally to try and grow the population. As it turns out, the population boomed because Nostalrius closed. So they got what they wanted without actually they didn't have to do anything. They would have gotten it anyway. So Kronos did have a period of time where the XP rate was 7x. Otherwise, it's all 1x, similar to Nostalrius and similar to retail vanilla. So that's really good. They do have, so there's a rumor that you can buy characters on Kronos. It's true, you can buy characters. You can't go in and just create a level 60 out of thin air and buy it. What they have is a character kind of auction or marketplace, we could call it. So I could level a character to level 60 and then put it on the marketplace and sell it to some other player. They do allow that. It's basically sanctioned by the Kronos team. And my understanding is that they decided to do it that way so that they could kind of use it as a way to get donations, in a sense, to support the server. And also because they figured people would do it anyway, which I agree with. I think people would do that anyway. So they figured they would rather keep it kind of under their own system and keep an eye on it and then get some donation benefit out of it. I haven't looked into it thoroughly. I haven't done anything with it. I'm not selling my characters. I'm not buying any characters because I have no interest in doing that. And it is kind of a negative thing. I mean, truthfully, my opinion would be I'd rather them just not support it, say that if we catch you doing it, we'll ban you, and be done with it. They've chosen the route where they basically allow it. So that's one of the kind of non-Blizz-like features of Kronos, but it is what it is. So you have to decide if that's a major deal breaker for you or not. It obviously wasn't for me. I'm still playing on the server when it's not being DDoSed anyway. And then, so there's that. You can also donate money to the server, and you do get some rewards out of it. Basically, the only one I really know about is you can get an epic level mount. So that's a level 60, 100% speed mount in exchange for donating. My understanding is it's like 50 euros for that mount, and that mount costs 100 gold in-game normally. Probably 90 gold if you are honored faction, or maybe it's revered, I believe honored with your faction. So let's say you're getting 100 gold benefit basically out of that in exchange for like 50 euros. So that's annoying for sure, but to keep in mind, they don't allow you to get the riding training. So the training to use the epic mount is actually 900 gold. So that is actually the major cost of getting the epic mount at level 60. So you still have to spend, 90% of what you need to spend. You still have to do that in-game by farming gold, but you can buy the mounts themselves. And actually, the mounts, you can buy cross-faction mounts. You can literally be an alliance character riding on a horde mount. I've only seen one of these at all in the game the entire time I've played. I don't know how many people do this, but you can do it. The fact that it exists, to me, is a negative. The fact that you can get cross-faction mounts is really weird. I don't like that. The fact that you can spend any amount of money to buy gold is what you're essentially doing. You're spending 50 euros to buy 100 gold, or to get a mount. I don't like that either. It's not enough to bother me, enough to not play, but I don't like it. So it's one more thing to keep in mind. If you want a Blizz-like experience, yeah, it's something that's there. It's a little annoying. So let's see. I think that's pretty much it for Kronos. Oh, let's see. As far as the PvE content. The first server, Kronos, there's Kronos 1 and Kronos 2, it's the name of the servers. Kronos 1 has Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub, and Onyxia out, and the Ancrush war effort is ongoing. So, of the three servers, or kind of three sets of servers we're talking about today, the Nostalrius servers, Kronos servers, and the Rebirth, the Ancrush war effort is the farthest any of them have gotten as far as PvE content. Once the war effort's completed, which I think Kronos 1 is the closest of all the servers to completing it, they will release Ancrush 20 and 40. So they do have a good rating scene on both sides. Not as good as Nostalrius PvP. Nostalrius was crazy. They had so many players. They had tons of guilds doing Molten Core, Onyxia, Zul'Gurub, and even Blackwing Lair. They had lots of Molten Core pugs. I haven't seen pugs on Kronos. I think I saw maybe a MC pug once, but it doesn't seem like they're huge. They're there, but not massive. So the rating side on Kronos is smaller than Nostalrius, but it's still very good. It's healthy. I wouldn't worry about that. On the Kronos 2 server, I don't think there's any rating yet. The server's too new, and there's not enough people that are level 60 yet. But they have Molten Core and Onyxia are out, and they'll release Blackwing Lair in a few months. That's the plan. So they're following kind of a progressive release like Nostalrius did, and like the Kronos 1 server did. So that gives us kind of the rating scene roughly there. I'll also mention that the PvP content on the server, they do have all three instances, Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, and Alterac Valley. However, my understanding is that Alterac Valley never seems to pop at all unless it's Alterac Valley weekend. Whereas on Nostalrius, there was always an Alterac Valley running, maybe a couple running, so that's kind of a downside, but it is what it is. So, what else is going on? So then, that's kind of the rough idea of what's going on there. The major problem at the moment for Kronos is the DDoSing. The DDoSing is so bad that people are starting to leave the server, or at least explore other options, and actually, that led me to explore other options. I've been playing on the Rebirth now for a few days, just testing things out a little. So now we're going to talk about the Rebirth and kind of my thoughts on that server. Okay, so the Rebirth is actually a really weird server. It launched in August of 2011, so this server is way older, like years older than Nostalrius or Kronos. However, despite being so much older, it's the smallest of all the servers, and it's not any farther progressed. So what I mean by that is that the maximum population, the largest population it's had in the last months, basically pretty much ever, is about 1,300 people. So no more than 1,300 people. And the server actually was much larger years ago. It actually had hit that peak years ago. But what happened is it basically went through a change of ownership. So there was many issues years ago. People were selling things, buying things. It was crazy. It's a huge fiasco. There's a big long story to it. And then it went shut down for like 6 months. It was just gone. it's back, and it basically restarted around this time. Nostalrius came up, is my understanding, and it's more like a Nostalrius server now than it was back then. There's new ownership. Don't worry about it. If you've heard rumors of people buying and selling things on there, like pay to win, that doesn't exist anymore on the Rebirth. But the server is much smaller. So, like I said, the maximum population it's hit is about a little over 1,200, 12 to 1,300. It averages only maybe 600 to 1,000 people online at a time is kind of the range you'll expect. So that's that's like the total population of the server. That's smaller than just the population on like one side of the Nostalrius PvE server. So the smallest Nostalrius server, one faction, was larger than the entire population of the Rebirth right now. But the Rebirth is growing, so that's one thing. It is growing, it's gotten much bigger. Actually, when Nostalrius first closed, the Rebirth was like, I logged on there, I saw 100 people online. And I logged on there and later in the day, I saw 150 people. I logged on the next day and saw like 120 people. So my understanding was that it was hovering between like 100 and 200 people at any given time, but now we're talking 600 to 1,000 people at any given time. So the population has maybe more than tripled, in my opinion, in the last few weeks, and it seems to be growing like on a daily basis. So it's maybe a decent server if you're looking for a low pop place. However, there's a few other things to keep in mind. So the progression, it has Molten Core, it has Blackwing Lair, it has Zul'Gurub Rub, and Onyxia. It seems like and the Ankarash war effort is ongoing right now, so they're kind of ramping up, and they're going to release Ankarash, my guess is sometime by the end of the summer. The problem is that the guilds, there's so few people on. Progression is fairly limited. There are some Molten Core guilds and very few Blackwing Lair guilds. My understanding is it's like, for Molten Core, like less than 10 guilds run Molten Core, and for Blackwing Lair, my understanding is like 1 or 2 per faction. That's kind of what I've gotten from talking to people, so it's very limited, but I think this will change as the more Nostalrius refugees level up, and as more Kronos refugees come over. So there's that. But it's kind of slow going for the PvE content. For PvP content, they have Alterac Valley, Arathi Basin, and Warsong Gulch. However, none of these instances will ever they'll never open up below level 60. So you're not going to get like a level 19 Warsong Gulch going. It just doesn't happen. There's just it doesn't happen at all. I've talked to people, people like literally say ask if it happens, and everyone I've talked to says that they've never seen one pop. So there's no instance PvP before level 60, unfortunately. That's basically a side effect of the low server population. Let's see, otherwise, so low server population is a big problem. The other thing going on is that their experience rate is kind of weird on the server, and this is my biggest hang up with the server. So when you kill a mob, you get normal experience, 1x XP rate, same as Nostalrius, same as Kronos, same as retail vanilla. However, when you quest, you have an option. You can set the quest experience to 1x to 5x. So you can get 100%, same as normal. You can get 500%, 5 times more than what you would normally get. And I tested it out, and it works exactly as they say, but it's so busted. What I mean is that, here's my theory. So my thing is, if you offer one player a way to level up quicker, or gain gold quicker, or get gear faster, and they decide they'll probably take it. Someone will take it. And if one player takes that advantage, the other player who normally wouldn't take it is going to say, well, that kind of stinks. Now I am kind of falling behind my friend, and so I want to take that advantage. So when they say this 1 to 5 XP rate from quests is, optional, you don't have to do it, to me, once they allow it, it opens up the floodgates for everyone to do it. Because once you get 20% of the population using 5x XP, they're leveling up faster, everyone else wants to join in because they want to catch up. It's kind of the natural human instinct to want to, stay on par with people, like keeping up with the Joneses, what we call it, as kind of a phrase here in America. So you want to keep up with the Joneses, you want to keep up with your neighbors, so you also then choose to do this 5x XP rate for quests, and then all of a sudden everyone is leveling up really quickly. But what the problem is with this, I ran Ragefire Chasm recently as a level 15 shaman, and our group was like 3 15s, a 20, and a 16, which is like a great level range for Ragefire Chasm, right? Should be fine. About halfway through, by the end of the instance, we wiped 6 times. And at the end, we sort of talked about it, and we realized that basically all of us chose the 5x XP leveling. What it meant is that you level up faster, but you don't get more gold from the quests. So we didn't have more gold. We weren't farming as many mobs, obviously, because we were leveling so quickly. And at the end, we were basically so high level so quickly that we all agreed none of us had bought all of our skills. We couldn't afford our skills. So, I had maxed out my, healing, and my Lightning Bolt and Rock Biter, and got a couple totem spells, but I was missing some other totems. I forgot what else was missing, like Flame Shock, a few things I couldn't afford as a shaman because I just didn't have enough silver. Besides that, the gear was terrible. Like, we had so little gear. Like, some people were in there in like pretty much all white gear or gray gear with like one green maybe, because they basically only did a few quests. They hit level 15, 16, 17, and they didn't kill as many mobs, they didn't pick up as many random greens. So basically the 5x XP rate for quests really throws off the game balance. It just butchers it. And I'm going to keep playing in there to try it some more, but it's a big downside. It's the major downside, and pretty much the only downside to the server, besides the kind of smaller population. I mean, it's a big issue to me. It's going to be hard to get used to, and I think I'm going to maybe reset my leveling to like 2x XP or 1x, because I think at 5x I basically find the character balance is kind of screwed up. So I don't really like it, and it's a major problem. The other few things that are going on is there's a cross-faction auction house. So that means you list something in the auction house on Horde side, Alliance players are linked to it and they can buy it. So that's because of low population. That's not Blizz-like. None of the other servers that do that. It's kind of bad. I actually don't mind it that much. Like, to me, if you have a low population, then you kind of compensate in that way. I think it's reasonable. And then besides that, what else there? The 3v3, that's what it is. So Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin and even Alterac Valley, all three of those, they will open up if both sides have 3 people queuing up. So what that means, you can have a 3 vs 3 Alterac Valley open, or you can have a 3 vs 3 Warsong Gulch or 3 vs 3 Arathi Basin open. I don't remember what the minimum is normally. I think most servers you have to max out. At least Warsong Gulch, I think you have to have the max amount of people, and Arathi Basin also. But for whatever reason, the Rebirth, because they have a low population, they decided to not do that. And they decided to have a 3 vs 3, which I think is a reasonable way to compensate. It's just a little weird, but I think that will change over time as they level up, or as they increase their player count. But that's kind of the main specifics of that. Overall, I like the Rebirth, but the 5x XP gain from questing is a major turnoff for me. And so they will get rid of it. They claim that they'll get rid of it once the Ancrash war effort ends. But by then, I think the damage is done. I think you're going to have tons of people that have leveled up really quickly and have a lot of issues with gold and quests and gear. In some cases, you're going to have people that don't know how to play their class because they've just leveled so quickly. They haven't taken the time to practice. It's kind of a problem, but I think it's an interesting problem. It's certainly something they can resolve if they just turn it off, which I think they will eventually. I don't know. My feeling is they're going to do it before the Ancrash war effort ends. I think if they see more problems occurring with Kronos like they are right now, with the DDoSing, and they see more people coming over from Kronos, I think they will switch off that Quest XP thing on the Rebirth pretty quickly. So that's my suspicion, my hypothesis, but I'm not sure. We'll see. They haven't said anything about that. They literally have only said it'll go off when the Ancrash war effort ends. So those are the 3 servers. So Nostalrius is gone, but it's unfortunately. But the reason why I bring it up is because it's such a great server, and I really wanted to explain why I liked it. And basically the major things were it had a good population, a very full server. It was extremely Blizz-like, no pay to win. So it's kind of a summary of these 3 servers. I feel like Nostalrius was like a 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect. There were some server stability, lag issues, some draw distance issues, but it was a very good server. It's definitely my favorite. Kronos is a good server, but it has some weirdness with some of the sort of pay to win. It's not really pay to win, but you can spend real money to get a mount. It's kind of weird. It's a little strange in that regard. Currently, with the DDoSing, it's like worthless. You can't play on it. But if, let's say, the DDoSing gets corrected and gets fixed up, in that case, if we cut that DDoSing off, then I would say the server's probably like a 7.5, 8 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10, like somewhere between 7 and 8. It's very good and fun. I'm enjoying myself. It's not as good as Nostalrius. There's just some issues still. So it has some things to fix. I didn't mention it, but they do have some weird pathing issues once in a while in Kronos. Nothing terrible, but some weird mob pathing. And then finally the Rebirth, I would say it's like a 7 out of 10. It's good. It's certainly a good server. The population's lower than I would like. And there's some instances where, like Molten Core, Ragnaros has some problems I've been told. I haven't been to Ragnaros, obviously I don't know firsthand. I've heard there's some issues with his attacking. And Onyxia has some weird aggro issues, some kind of line of sight attacking issues also. It's really strange. That's what I've heard anyway. So that seems weird to me. Those are still issues, and other servers don't have those problems. So that's bad. And of course, in the Rebirth, the big problem to me is the 5x accelerated quest XP. That's strange. I don't really like that. That's the biggest problem I have with it. So I would say the Rebirth is maybe like a 7 out of 10. It's a good server. If you go there, you'll have fun. I think it's a good backup server, especially if you're worried about Kronos crashing or being destroyed permanently. If you aren't on Kronos now and you want a server to play on, I think the Rebirth is a fun server. It just has some issues overall. So to summarize, Nostalrius 9 out of 10, Kronos maybe like a 7.5 out of 10, and the Rebirth like a 7 out of 10. They're all fun. They're all enjoyable. Personally, I'm looking forward to hopefully Blizzard releasing their own vanilla server someday, so we can just pay them $15 a month to get a stable server that won't get shut down by Blizzard. That'd be the best case scenario. But overall, these servers are fun. They're enjoyable. Please, comment below if you have any thoughts about this. This is not really a review of the servers. I played Nostalrius to level 60. I played Kronos to about level 30. And I've played the Rebirth to about level 20, so I haven't played the same amount of time on each, so I can't give a fair comparison. So I'm hesitant to call this a thorough review, but it's sort of a preview and general comparison between the three major servers. They're the major servers in my eyes. There is one other server I'll give a quick mention to. It was called, I think, Nostalrius.re or something like that. They changed their name to, it stood for like Nostalrius Reborn. They changed their name to like vanilla servers, like vanilla-servers. You can go to it at like vanilla.re. It's like the website. Or I think it's what it is. It's a really weird name. It's a terrible name. Vanilla servers is the worst possible name for a vanilla server. Like, I don't know. It's like if you want to name your baby, you don't name your baby. You name it like Jack or something. So vanilla server is the name of another vanilla server. And I haven't looked into it much. I've heard it's on the rise. It might be worth looking into. I don't want to include it in this kind of comparison because it's just too different. But overall, those are the three servers. So let me know if you have any questions or comments. And that's pretty much all we have for today. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.